Hello, sir. Good evening. Welcome back to our podcast, EOD Talks. In today's session, we are going to have a post budget discussion, continuing with our previous series. My name is Ishika, and
My name is Ankit Khare. Welcome again, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Ishika. Thanks, Kare. Happy to be here. Sorry, I'm traveling, so this video quality, hopefully this should work.
no, sir, it's fine. Absolutely fine. Sis, kicking start with our session. A common reaction to budget 2026 2027 is that it feels relatively unenthusiastic in the short term, with most measures geared towards long term structural outcome. It is a fair perception of middle class people that the budget has no reforms towards the income statement as well as the initial young investors in the short term. So there is a friction momentum towards it. Would you like to share your thoughts on this?
Yeah, yes, one way possibly. And I think, so I personally am reading the budget as a pretty strong statement in some sense. Right. There has been over the years, by the current regime, there has been um, a tendency to increasingly keep budget as a statement of accounts only, and not necessarily for any really big announcements. So they have been occasional about it. They have done away with railway budget. Um, good chunk of SOPs and good chunk of policies are announced throughout the year. GST has been, it's an entirely separate story, not part of the budget as well. So enough decrease in the importance of budget has happened over the years. That is true. And it's somewhat continuing in that. But still, an annual statement of account is an annual statement of account. So there would be enough meat in it for the overall understanding of the government as the economy both. And I think there is in this time as well, right? And possibly one of the reasons why people might have somewhat muted response to budget, at least in the short term view, is because they're not reading it closely with economic survey. And I think this is the first time that the economic survey and budget are actually really well aligned. And if you look at them, you see that it's a continuing, there's a statement of economics and then the statement of accounts, and there is a link between the two, right? So for this time budget analysis, it's important to pay attention to economic survey as well. And one of the key things that economic survey has done upfront before when it was released before the budget was I think for the first time, as far as I could tell, for the first time that it has put probabilistic numbers to various global scenarios, all not so good, right? And there has been the use of shlokas for Katha as well, which indicates, Shreyas versus Prayas, doing more. It's always weak minds always do something which is of immediate benefit against people with viveka who should actually do as per the long-term view kind of thing. So that statement itself was made in the economic survey of India, and then the budget continued. And I think budget continued on the same story, right? Same story of what? Same story of a very disciplined fiscal deficit, um, which provides the anchor to the overall budget, and which has been this government's uh, achievement. One of the crowning achievements of this government has been the fiscal deficit control and the fiscal discipline that has been shown despite increase in welfare. So they have been pretty smart about it. That signature continues, and that is the rock of the current budget, right? And there is a fairly strong, clear message about continuation of the all supply side investments, right? Supply side activity, supply side, infrastructure, and various PLIs that are there. So that side continues. The public capex is huge. The public capex is comparatively has seen a good jump. I think 12 lakh crore or something. All right. So there's a steady flow on the supply side, steady making of that. And remember, supply side is basically the physical part of the economy, right? That is what kind of produces goods and makes the economy function. So strengthening the physical machinery of the economy, that part is clearly there. Steadily, they've been doing it steadily, both infrastructure side as well as the overall industry side. They continue doing on that. And following on with economic surveys, probabilities of the issues in the world, the uncertainties in the world, they have went on to increase the military expenditure, right? They have increasingly invested in core sectors such as semiconductor to de-risk them of the global supply chain as well. So they're sprinkling of enough things given the global uncertainty in place as well, right? So the way I see the budget is displayed at a very healthy, rock solid state of the economy, even further tightening its belt for what supposedly might look like a very, very uncertain future. So that is how I see the budget and the budget message per se.
Yes, sir. As you rightly said, there are a lot of investment in the supply sides. Sir, in our last discussion, you mentioned about India operating at a capitalistic socialism model. Wealth generation must precede distribution to avoid the high inflation of the UPA era. Budget 2026 has doubled down on the capitalistic side, where 12.2
Correct.
lakh crore of capex. So, is the government tilting too far towards the production at the cost of social distribution? Or is the
Right.
fiscal discipline the only way to
No,
prevent the
absolutely correct. So
inflation?
why not loosen a bit of a purse for welfare as well? You are absolutely correct. But welfare is either way a part. Huh? By the way, DBT, vagara, the improvements on the efficiency, improvement of the delivery on the welfare has been huge in the last 10 years, right? People, money actually reach people. So while you see military capex also getting utilized, huh? It has been underutilized. So military expense, military capital expenditure has been underutilized in the budget for last several years. This is the first time it is fully utilized. So you see there the utilization has gone up of the allotment. Even on the DBT welfare side, the same thing is happening. The efficiency has tremendously increased. So that efficiency, those efficiencies, both is increasing actually. And DBT reforms preceded this kind of supply chain activism per se. But more than that, I think the way government sees it, the budget is a signaling exercise, and in that signaling exercise they prefer, because none of the announcement that you really see, none of the announcement given the overall announcements made in the budget, these sectoral wise announcement, except for the capex announcement. Capex is definitely a core part of the budget, but sectoral announcements are none of the announcements which are bigger than say the other PLI kind of announcements that has happened throughout the year. All right, so they could have chosen to do this also outside the budget. There's not a necessity to include this in the budget. Couple of things, but they included semiconductor, for example, to send a signal. Where is our focus? So budget signaling part is stronger than that, and they have signaled that they are doubling down on the supply side. They are doubling down on the industrial base of India, defense and non-defense both, right? And that follows from as we talked from the survey as well, which identifies the need of sacrificing a bit of today for a much, much, much better tomorrow kind of. So it flows from there. Having said that, the welfare, I think there is also, so that's the signaling part. But that does not means that they are not doing welfare per se, right? The number of welfare announcements throughout the year with each election has been again through the roof at the state level, at the central level, that has always been there, right? So the political economy is that you announce supply side dynamism on the budget, which is the formal statement of the business of the government, while you announce the welfare measures in the elections, right? When you get the returns of that, because if I announce it too early and then election happens, everybody forgets. That's a recency bias. Is everybody suffers from recency bias, right? So I keep telling you, my students, and I don't know if you guys have heard about it, me or not. The whole review process in corporate, the memory of that, every year progress review that will happen is 3 months. So what you have worked 3 months ago is what is going to count even in your reviews, right? And the first 9 months, what you have done, maybe you have done something, you have done something, nobody remembers. आप कुछ तो किए थे, तुम कुछ किए थे ना, क्या किए थे बताओ. That kind of a stuff is there for the older part. So this recessive bias is real and everywhere in voters as well. So the political economy of the government has been for signaling purposes budget on the supply side and stuff like that. Not that they don't do welfare, but this time they wanted to particularly emphasize supply side in the budget. So no welfare part of the budget. Welfare announcements either way are throughout the year in that sense, right? So yes, the model is still at work, and since capitalism precedes socialism, so for every welfare you have to put something else for tomorrow as well, right? So that the welfare continues tomorrow, right? So that exercise, I think they have chosen to do it today, both from the perspective of uncertain world either way, and even if nothing fructifies and with God's grace everything is fine, we still are building up our factories, building up our sectors, building up our infrastructure, so that tomorrow, if required, I can give consumption boost to the people, right? Consumption boost is, by the way, easiest boost, right? And fastest boost, right? So you just say, I'll give 10,000 crore to everybody and give. The moment you give, the consumption boost happen, right? But in case of surplus, in case of semiconductor, you give today, it will take, it's on time, बीज है, उससे से roots निकलेंगे, फिर पेड़ निकलेगा, फिर बड़ा होगा, फिर फल मिलेगा. So you have to keep preceding each welfare with, you have to for keep on plucking the fruits, but plant trees for 5 years ahead. So I think that is what is displayed in the current budget as well.
Yes, so the budget definitely makes a strong push towards the high value manufacturing sectors like biopharma. You mentioned about semiconductors as well, and other
Right,
critical minerals that they mentioned. And they are naming it in terms of strategic autonomy that the budget is moving
right.
towards. And the India's execution constraint is going to be realistic over the next few decades. What do you think could be the tipping points in these frontiers in the upcoming years, and how would India react to put forward to this?
Right. So I'm much more. I mean, typically people are bullish on India these days, but I'm much more bullish than the regular bullish guy out there,
Yeah,
because somehow I see that the variables are aligning very, very well with India. In terms of the state of the economy, in terms of the state. When I say state of the economy, I mean is the largest growing and perhaps the only growing, big major economy of the world, because we can't even tell with other countries where the what kind of inflation is there and what kind of GDP growth is there. We have no reliable, even US these days data reliability has gone down significantly, right? And headline number, you don't know what tweak they do and what somehow they deliver some kind of a inflation. The real feel on the ground is significantly different. So the data discrepancies, or let's just say the accuracy of the signals, economic signals, has become weak world over. Yeah, right. On the other hand, in India, it is fairly well visible in various aspects. It is growing extremely well. Um, Geopolitically, also, typically, you will see and people will say, friend of US, enemy of US. Till yesterday,
yes.
we were angry with US. Today, Trump announced the happy deal is there. After mother of all deals, we had a father of
Yeah,
all deals also from US. So
yeah.
geopolitical, the importance of India is also significantly going up. So it looks like a combined rise at a point when economic rise is happening, when the world over the rise is not there at all. So that tends to lend a kind of a time-based or a lucky scenario or a divine blessing kind of a scenario for the country to rise. And I see that is happening now. I also peg India of today very, very close to where China was on 2002, 2003 kind of a period, or
Okay.
maybe even 2006-7 period. So you see, after that 10, 15 years, China growth has been through the roof, tremendously grown. And the tipping point, so why I'm saying is, what is the tipping point? The scale itself starts acting at a tipping point at the stage that India is in, right? So at the scale it is, the growth that it is coming, it's a high chance of a very, very upwardly steeping curve. I would not be surprised if India starts touching 10% growth in not too far a future. All right. So I would really not be surprised onto that as well. So economically, extremely well posed, India in those terms. And I think the current regime, at least on the efficiency, on the implementation side, is definitely one of the better regimes of India. All right. So you see, I think there is an increasing focus on the overall budget and economic survey. Also, you'll read there's an increasing focus on the delivery as well. All right. A lot of people actually, there are Twitter stories around why does Prime Minister inaugurates everything, you know? So you will see him inaugurating metro station,
Yeah.
everything actually, a good chunk. you will see him inaugurating at places where you first time heard about that place itself. Right? So that's actually the governance model, right? So, and actually that exposes him to a political risk as well. अभी हम बनाया एक बढ़िया पुल बनवाया, सब पैसा वैसा सब देके बनवाया, अब नीचे में कोई some bureaucrat करप्ट ब्यूरोक्रेट सब पैसा खा गया और पुल खराब बना दिया, and I am inaugurating that, गिर गया तो big political risk is there, right? Anything can happen. I'm not necessarily saying कि ऐसा होता है, but some natural disaster हो गया, कुछ भी कारण से पुल तो ऐसे ही गिरते रहते हैं इंडिया में, that's not a surprising part, right? So it exposes him to a political risk, yet he does it because being inaugurated by the prime minister automatically puts a lot of discipline, a lot of the pressure on the people itself. If it is now being inaugurated by the prime minister, what will happen? And if prime minister fixes कि in 3 years ये करना मैं आके inaugurate करूंगा, the pressure for delivering that infrastructure project is significantly different from the government machinery, right? So I think the government has also plus digital, and we have the government procurement website also now and stuff like that whole mechanism. So the delivery system of the bank or the inner oiling of the system is comparatively very much better, and I think we'll bear or we'll reap the fruits of that also in near future. So increasingly we'll see that this oiling and this betterment, this infrastructure investment, and these things start coming up together, and it is basically freeing. So I mean, it was evidenced in COVID as well, right? One of the fastest coming out of the crisis economy was India, right? So post-COVID, right? So the bounce back has been tremendous. So that shows that the resilience and the system shock absorbers and the oiling is working really well at the stage. So yeah, so that's my view on the India upside, and I see over a period of time this will happen.
Yeah, sir. Similar hopes.
Yes, we are also very bullish, and we hope we'll soon reap the fruits of the current government, that
Yeah.
seeds they are sowing right now. So, moving on from this macro topics and the politics, when we look at traders, the government has clearly signaled discomfort with excessive speculation by rising taxes on derivative tradings. How would this affect the trading habits of young investors in the coming years?
So again, the signal is pretty strong in the budget where you're not doing anything, literally anything on the tax front. We're just increasing one STT, right? So again, the signaling value was pretty strong of that. Signaling, of course, was that speculation should be contained. And there are speculations, there's no doubt about it. There are speculations, enough speculation in market as well. Retail people are, and we have enough studies about how options tradings and futures tradings can lead to tremendous loss and how very few traders actually make money in these segments. But more than that, it was signal that speculation is being tracked closely, and we will do. The government is ready to do whatever it takes to curb this kind of uncertainty. Because truly speaking, a good chunk of global uncertainty today arises from speculative activities. So you see the Bitcoin prices, the way it moves. I mean, it's a heaven for speculators, right? It's a tremendous heaven for speculators.
Yeah.
I mean, good chunk. Abhi to you see what metals are doing. So do you think that कल सोना का इतना डिमांड था, इतने जा रहे, so many jewelries were making that the gold on a day was 3-4% up, and next because our jewelry ka demand has moved so down that it has moved vertically down. Is that how metals demand move? They don't, right? So whatever is happening in terms of metal prices today is basically financial speculation again. Yeah, right. So financial speculation world over has gone through the roof, right? And there's a classic signs of that a drop is not too far in that sense, right? So we must understand that a lot of the budget is geared toward, I mean, a good chunk of budget is geared toward uncertainty, and therefore it also wants to signal domestic. So this also was a part of that only, by sending a signal that the speculation should be curbed and stuff like that. So I don't see it as any disincentive or otherwise, or incentive for doing anything, except for a signal that the government is decently concerned about speculative money, right? Baki to I think they are doing they are doing something for the reels, right? For making reels, what is that called? Orange economy?
Yeah.
That is what it is.
Yeah.
Yes. Are you sure, right? I understood correctly.
Yeah,
Orange economy is a
orange
real
economy.
economy, right?
Yeah.
So they are giving that money. So they will teach how to invest. What will these reels do? Huh? newer and newer influencer will come. So I think that part is why I think the current generation is extremely well informed, sometimes bordering on to over inform as well, but extremely well informed. So the government wouldn't have to do much to plug them in. They are already plugged. So that will automatically keep
And
them.
they need to taper it down so that more
Yeah.
finfluencers are not just
Mm.
giving any sort of
Yeah,
information
yeah.
that they feel
Concern is the
like.
other way, right? And don't take
Yeah,
over too much. Don't do too much.
yeah.
I think this is the first time India is suffering from this phenomena. बहुत ज्यादा इन्वेस्टर आ गए हैं प्रभु, they already encourage the investment. अभी तो टैक्स में ब्रेक देते रहता था, म्यूचुअल फंड में इन्वेस्ट करो तो ये होगा वो होगा. अभी दे आर लाइक कि प्रभु बहुत ज्यादा हो गया.
Yeah, correctly. So this
Yes.
is the thing.
Even the Andheri station is named Mutual Fund Sahi Hai Andheri.
Oh,
All over the place, nahi? Yeah. Now, a good time to invest, but with crisis coming in. So this again, I'll actually underline for your viewers that this budget takes I mean, from all perspective, from our understanding of the global macroeconomic perspective by economic survey, by putting in probabilities. What are the three states that they are predicting? I think it is managed disorder, 40 to 45% probability. Disorderly
oh, yeah.
multipolar breakdown, 40 to 45% probability.
Hmm.
Right? Systematic shock cascade, 10 to 20% probability. Right? The common factor is disorder is going to be there 100%.
Hmm.
There are three probabilities, but the one common word is disorder. Disorder is, you sum it up, you basically reach at 100%.
Yeah, they're
So
doing best.
essentially, economic survey is saying disorder is right there. It's 100% that disorder is coming. What
They're
form of
just
disorder? That is
forecasting
the
it
question.
in terms of
Yeah.
best alternative worst case scenarios. What could be the different probabilities, and then trying to forecast what disorder
Hmm.
will be there.
Yeah. So acknowledging that, putting numbers to it is actually a big deal, right?
Hmm.
And I see the current budget plus the exercise very well dominated by these uncertainties out there. We of course saw the manifest part of this uncertainty as well, which was all Trump tariff and stuff. But trust me, that's just the manifest part. The runs of problems run much deeper. All right, the yields, the government bond yields through the world are sending blaring red signals for some time now, at least 1.5 months. They are saying that the things are broken. You look at the way the yields are climbing, you look at what Bank of Japan is doing, what is happening to their JGBs, Japanese government bond. Uh, it's a surprise that no crisis is there at the moment, actually. The bonds are signaling as if we are already into a crisis per se, right? Of course, central banks world over are into it, and these are the ones who are managing it, and probably why the crisis is. So we are already in a managed disorder phase. This is my personal feeling. That's not a 40-45%. We are with it's a disorder, but managed with some manifestations around, right? But I increasingly feel that this managed disorder will keep on breaking. So because the disorder is so large, only so much amount of time you can actually manage it, right? So the
Hmm.
manifest parts of this are going to increase definitely, right? And this is both. And as we discussed our last time, military Keynesianism, right?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Where if economic troubles are there, the government starts spending on the military side to pump up the economy, right? That is a strong undercurrent globally. So, while it can be argued that geopolitical fault lines are there, and that's why these wars are happening, that is happening and stuff. Geopolitical fault lines are always there, right? But you will see they cluster around times when there is an economic crisis as well. Their manifest part, right? So the activity is strongest on the fault lines when the economic aspects are attached to it, right? Whole of Trump tariff is essentially related to economics and stuff, right? There is some trouble over there that he's trying to do something and doing something and stuff like that. So that is also a manifest part of kind of a managed disorder that we are kind of living through, right? But increasingly, it's look like it can go to much darker places, economically and financially, right? So we would have, and it is big enough to create the more disturbing war-like geopolitical scenario as well. So that all it would be the disorder or the impending crisis, the kind of thing that systematic shock cascade that is being contemplated, even at 10-20%, that can be big enough to cause huge repercussions around the world in geopolitics as well, right? And I think these are concerning. So I think uh, this decade, possibly the long-term cycles of economic cycle as well as geopolitical cycle, they are happening almost together, and just giving it a much bigger scale, and this will continue giving it, right? So in such a complex scenario, what do you do, right? मिलिट्री भी चल रहा है उधर में, कुछ इकोनॉमी में भी एक्टिविटी हो रही है. So you tighten up the belt on both sides, and that's what is being reflected on that side as well. The good part is that Indian economy is also functioning well. So Indian military spend is not as if I have to do it to counter my economy as well. So that layer is not at that stage. So basically, it adds to the economic growth much more. So while other people using military spend would be able to, let's say, get 2, 3, 4% growth, India using already is growing at 8% and roundabout. You add some military mechanism to it, you will get 2, 3% additional within a couple of years, right? So that could be one of the reasons where we can actually touch 10% growth as well if done well, right? So a good chunk of budget I actually see in the light of this preamble.
Yes, sir. We can clearly see a trend where Indian government is moving towards strategic autonomy and choosing wisely where they invest their money.
Yeah.
So, moving forward, like, sir, in this coming few months, which sectors would you be tracking? Like, where do you see investors, opportunities for investors, and
Mm.
student like us, like where we see business opportunities in the coming months after this budget?
Right. So Indian growth is going to be good, right? Maybe subdued for some time for whatever reasons might happen, but Indian growth is going to be the good. So that's the good part of it. But it would be significantly more directed and significantly more specific in some areas, right? Military, of course, is one of them. So in fact, I will expand it. It's not just military. Military, when you're gearing towards, or when you're going towards strategic autonomy, military is a good part, but it's not the only part, right? All cutting edge techs, all. So all cutting edge tech would be remain, and we see the semiconductor allocation also. This is 40,000 crore or something of that sort number is there in terms of semiconductor allocation. Pharma, they are doing it. So all the frontier sectors, they would see good growth, right? And they would see intention growth as well. They are small as of now, so automatically the percentage growth is higher. Even if you add something, the push is very fast. B, government also would be very much concerned about getting those sector up and running kind of a scenario. So from my perspective, it's good from that point as well, because generally it's better to be in touch with the most cutting edge things. But for you guys, I would to say double down on newer and newer tech. It will happen in India. So big tech, strategic autonomy cannot come without big tech being done. So government will keep pushing. That is the future, and India would have a significant place in that. That is for sure. So the gap between, let's say, India and China, India and US in terms of cutting edge tech, India is essentially the third power in the world, basically, right? So in these segment also, in sunrise segment also, they will come up very fast. So military, sunrise sector, banking sector itself is a very good counter for the overall economy. All right. So banking sector is another sector which would have to do well, and we see, right, when we don't have NPAs, we feel so much more lighter in terms of banking sector, and therefore the economy also feels much more lighter and much more nimble on the feet, right? So banking sector is a very good reflection of the Indian economy, and provide they are going to do good, banking sector automatically should do good. Same as with infra as well. So infrastructure is another sector where a lot of things are to be built. So India essentially is multiple. India is essentially, the direct counterpart of India is not European countries, it's Europe itself. The overall Europe, the way you see the diversity, the kind of a thing. So India can achieve Europe kind of, you know, connectivity at which is not there on the infrastructure space. So there also it will be aggressive growth out there. So military aggressive growth, infrastructure aggressive growth, bank a good reflection on the economy, and cutting edge sectors, all innovations and stuff. Double down on them. 2, 3 years, for sure this would start sunrising. So how can you manifest that from a MBA perspective? So if you are, let's say you end up in a consulting, you should prefer when of whatever to whatever extent you have a preference of what sector you should be involved in, you should prefer these sectors: military, infra, cutting edge tech, and stuff like that, right? Or investment banking, try and go and look for deals in this space, working in this space. That will reap. So getting experts as this sector would reap very good benefit in near future. So medium future. Investments
Yeah.
perspective, gold. Okay, gold is going to go through the roof. No more silver also. Okay, if you really look at, so this is a very late cycle thing, by the way, huh? When all the metals climb up together. So essentially, it is saying that industrial metal is also, copper is also going up, gold is also, silver is also going up, which is essentially saying that industry is also going to go do good, and there will be a financial crisis as well. Gold climbs up when there is a crisis, right? Copper climbs up when there is good growth. So market is signaling both. In a growth
Okay.
भी होगा और crisis भी होगा. So that is a bit of a ये. So typically it's a late cycle phenomena. इसके बाद यही होता है कि the industrial metals go down and actually the crisis comes. So this is a period where the investors are very jittery. कि क्या होगा क्या होगा. So they start selecting metals as a counterpart for it's at least a real asset.
Yeah.
And that's why it climbs, kind of a thing. So from an investment perspective, go for gold. That's what probably would be a good response to the crisis that we might be facing.
Okay, sir. I'll push all my friends and family to have gold investments for sure after this podcast. And it doesn't matter whatever economic cycle we are in, we should definitely
Yeah.
keep investing. But yeah, I think that the common perception that the term that we started our podcast with, the misconceptions that people have, the immediate benefits that they are reaping out of the budget, I wish that this discussion will sound fruitful for them, where they would be able to get a new sight and a new angle to look the budget and the upcoming years, and how they should invest, put forward, what sectors they should track, and what else could be made, and how a normal MBA student should basically analyze a budget, not just in terms of capex and all, what could be the geopolitical scenarios and economic scenarios, how these different worlds are linked together. So I believe that this was a really fruitful yet sweet short session, and we really enjoyed whatever insights you had for us, and I believe that our viewers will enjoy too. Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming to podcast. Thank you for being a part of this EOD budget series, and we look forward to see you in the more upcoming videos. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. It was a pleasure being here. Good discussion.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.